Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr if you've not been here before, and welcome. We're going to be talking about another Final Fantasy trading card game deck here, which is something I think that a lot of casual players and maybe competitive players alike are really excited to see somebody build something along these lines. But before I go into the deck itself, I did want to make a quick kind of statement about the way that I feel that a lot of players in not just Final Fantasy but just gaming industry or gaming communities in general are becoming, and it's something I'm going to make a proper video on later, because I mean I get, as I'm sure anyone who tries to be in a public eye gets, I get you know, hate comments and I get nasty things flown at me all the time, and it's something that I want everyone to know that it doesn't shake my confidence or anything like that. It doesn't cause me to want to stop doing anything. I made a post on Facebook from the Final Fantasy TCG fans group not too long ago, and it really kind of blew up, and I wanted to make sure everybody knew that I was fine and that it wasn't a problem. That wasn't why I made the post. What I wanted to do was to raise awareness that this stuff does happen, and if people were just a little bit nicer to each other, then it would just benefit everybody. And I'll leave a link to the group in the description box because it's actually a really great group, and I want to make sure everybody knows that I've met so many good people through this game and through other games, that every community has like bad eggs, as it were, and stuff that gets said that doesn't need to be said, etc. And I just think that it's good to kind of voice your concerns when these things happen, and you know, because then it stops the kind of infection from spreading, as it were. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up. But the deck that we're going to be talking about today is actually going to be Dragoons. Now Dragoons is something that I know is really popular for a lot of people, but they've never really been competitive as such, and I know that this one may not be either, but I wanted to give everyone a platform as something that might inspire you guys to build something, like build some Dragoons, build something that like you really like, and if you like something enough then you can adapt it to your way of working. But let's just get straight into the deck list, shall we? So the deck is going to be a lightning water deck. Now the reason for this is for multiple reasons. You know, I wanted to kind of give the deck as much as I could against ice as possible, because I know a lot of people are complaining about ice at the moment, are worried that it's really powerful. But we're going to go straight into the forwards, and I am going to turn to the side slightly so that you guys can see, so that I can see my monitor and read the deck list out for you. For those of you who want to see the deck list outside of the video, then it is going to be posted on FFDecks.com. These guys provide an amazing database for Final Fantasy trading card games, so definitely check that out. But we're going to go in with the lightning forwards first, which are going to be Dragoon. Now, Dragoon, this one is from Opus VI, and I think this opens up a large kind of margin for Dragoons to actually work, because it's a standard unit Dragoon that actually does something worthwhile. It gets 2,000 power for every Dragoon or job Dragoon or card name Dragoon that you have, and 2 CP. It gets very big very quickly. And if you happen to have Kain out, who we'll get to in a little while, then he gets even bigger, and he gets out of control really quickly. And I really like the way that he's worded, and I think that him being 2 CP means that he's gladiatorable. He just fits perfectly, and I think he does a lot of work. Freya is a card that I know a lot of people have been wanting to play since Opus 3 and since she came out, and I'm putting her in here primarily for her S ability and the fact that, you know, she has haste and first strike, which is really nice. In my eyes, she's not the best Dragoon in the world, unfortunately. Her S ability can win you games, and it doesn't require her to dull, so you can, if you have 2 Freyas, you can just play her and then immediately use it. So don't play Freya too early, because otherwise you'll end up suffering for it, but if you do get that combo off, you might find it actually just straight up wins you the game. And then Kain, as I said, is like imperative to this kind of deck, and this is a different Kain to a lot of the ones that you see regularly, because this one specifically boosts Dragoons. And because the deck is lightning and water, we do actually have room to put Rosa in the deck so that he can get his primary buff, because he's very under the curve if you don't have Rosa out. Although he does give things, he gives a lot to other Dragoons. He gives 2,000 power, which is a great deal. But you know, if he has 2k for haste and first strike, then he becomes a lot more powerful. So I did want to find room to put Rosa in. I put a single Zemus in here because I think that with Red Mage being able to give him haste and the ability to kind of resurrect dead Dragoons or Freyas or even Kains or anything like that, even if it's just one copy of it, I actually think that this is a really good shout against Ice, because if Ice can't kill him quickly or like incapacitate him otherwise permanently, then he's gonna like ramp up so quickly and he'll regain his value more quickly than they can handle, and that I think is imperative. And then I've gone with 2 copies of Estinien, not 3. Now the reason for that is because Estinien is very much a late game play. Now I wanted to keep Estinien kind of, you could run 3 of him, you could even run the other Estinien if you wanted to, but I think that Estinien is kind of reserved for a mono lightning build, whereas this is a lightning water build and therefore he's too hard to get out. But I wanted to make sure he was at least in the deck because he, you know, when he starts getting going, he does so much work, it's ridiculous. So, you know, again, you want to try and get 5 backups down for him. The problem that Dragoons has is that they kind of require pieces all over the place to kind of like, for everything to work together, kind of like Scions do. But there's no reason why you couldn't run this. There's a lot of setting up that you can do, and the water built part of this deck is revolved around a secondary kind of win condition, so you're not just relying on the Dragoons, even though they can get very powerful very quickly. With just a Dragoon and an Estinien, a Dragoon and a Kain alone, you're looking at a 9k 2-drop, and that's a lot. And then lastly for the lightning ones, we're going with the Ricard. Now I wanted this because I wanted a value searcher, or a value Dragoon, and Ricard being 5-drop 8k searching for Minwu specifically in this deck, I think actually does a lot of work. You know, he's an 8k 3-drop at that point, and that's actually above value, and then it also enables your secondary win condition because this is a very summon-centric build, as we'll get to now. With the water forwards, I've gone with Garnet and Minwu as a summon engine. Now Garnet will allow you to kind of have that I have 1000 power across the board at all times. It synergizes very well with Cyclops and now Ramuh as well, because you can now pay double water into them instead of paying lightning at all. And I think that Cyclops and Garnet just go hand in hand, and they have done for a long time. So I think that it works very, very well here. And then Minwu is again trying to get your, you know, value out of him, because if he grabs a summon, and there are 10 in the deck, so the chances are pretty high that you're going to get one. Then you know you can do a lot with him. And even if you don't get one, he still has his ability when he attacks, so that you can cast a summon without paying for it. And given that we're running things like Bismarck and Cuchulainn, you know, Cuchulainn is a great card to cast off of Minwu because it opens up the board and it gets you a card out of it. It just works very, very well. And then I've also gone with a small Layla and Viking engine because I think that this engine is just phenomenal. I love it. Some of you guys out there might not like it as much as I do, but I've actually been building another deck that's actually completely revolved around this engine and some other bits and pieces here. I actually did allude to it in some of my earlier videos, so if you're looking forward to seeing what I've done with that, then look forward to that in the near future. But Layla and Viking just have so much draw power, and because you have the synergy with Gladiator and Bran, it means that you just get so much value out of them that it allows you time to build your board and get everything together quickly so that you don't have to worry about having to continue doing it. It also helps against ice, with it being such a heavy draw engine, and I think that it will just set you up really, really nicely. You have your power plays in your Dragoons and your Lightning cards, so having consistency come from your water forwards is actually really powerful as well. And then going into the backups, I've been experimenting with Arashia from Opus VI, and I actually quite like her. I like her most when she's played with Odin, the 7 CP Odin, and we're not actually running that in this deck. But that being said, being able to kind of change your summons to cater for a different reason, say you have a Minwu out and you want a Cuchulainn, you can just go and grab it, and that's nice. I didn't want to go too heavily on her because, again, I think I like her most with 7 CP Odin because it means that you can discard it and it actually have a use outside of being the X-Burst, but I wanted to experiment with it. You could easily change this for any other 2 CP backup. Black Mage from Opus 2 would be a solid choice. Artemisium I like as a one-off just in a lot of water decks because it helps with the consistency, which is what the water in this deck is designed to do. Cannoneer, I really, really like in this deck because it kind of fits the theme of dropping their power, making your guys stronger. It's just like that kind of power trick that makes your guys just always stronger than your opponents. And then Red Mage, I know I mentioned Artemisium, but that's because FFDecks, you know, displays it in such a way that it's organised by CP cost, whereas I organised mine by colour, so I do apologise for that. Red Mage is just good. You know, we've all played Red Mage since Opus 1, but the main reason, I shouldn't say that actually, I've become very, very conscious of trying not to use the words good, bad, you should run, you should not run, because this game is a huge game of choices and there's so many things available to everybody, so I really shouldn't say stuff like that. It would not benefit me or anybody else to say things that way. There we go, I'll get there eventually. But red mage, I think, you know, giving your Freya, or giving your Dragoons haste, not Freya, she already has haste, but giving Minwu haste is very, very strong. Giving, you know, Ricardo's, Zemus having haste is really, really strong if you've got the means to pay for it. King of Artemisium is an EX burst 3 CP searcher, which is honestly reason enough to run Dragoons, because not many archetypes have a 3 CP EX burst searcher. And then we have Sage, primarily just as a one-off, purely because I kind of wanted to be able to recur Freyas, so that you've got that ability to board wipe your opponent at any given time, and I think that that's really strong. And then with the water backups, I've already stated why I thought Artemisium should be in the deck. Gladiator makes a lot of sense because it will recur your Vikings and your Dragoons, and I thought that was really, really useful. Bran is in here for exactly the same reason. You have a small standard unit engine just by it being there, so you may as well run her. Rosa is an interesting one. I actually really like Rosa even without Kain. I think that it's actually quite an interesting anti-meta pick because targeted removal or targeted summons have been a thing for a long time, especially in Ice. Like, Glacial Abolus is probably Ice's most popular summon right now, and this card actually directly answers it because at least one of the modes, or 3 out of the 4 modes on Glacial Abolus target one of your forwards. So because you choose two modes for Glacier, you're always going to be targeting something. So you're therefore kind of negating the discard part of it by accident. And that's really useful. It's not always useful, no, but in this deck it does serve a secondary purpose in that it buffs Kain. So I really think that it works very, very well in here. And, you know, we use Ramuh and things like that in this deck, and that almost always targets somebody as well. And then lastly we have Yuna, because I wanted an EX burst that actually served a different purpose, and we don't have any high costing backups in the deck really, so I thought this should be a really good fit in here, but you could easily change this to any other water backup, honestly. Now going into the summons, we're not running any monsters in this deck, although you could find reasons to run them, but I wanted to go with a summon-centric deck because of the presence of things like Garnet and Minwu in the deck. Bismarck, I think, works very, very well in this deck because I think that halving your opponent's power does kind of fit the theme very, very nicely. You could always bounce a Viking to your hand if you wanted to, if you needed emergency draw power as well. I just really like Bismarck and I think it's very, very good. I've then gone with 3 copies of Cyclops because, as I've said previously, it synergizes very, very well with both Minwu and Garnet, and it, you know, it kind of breaks down the wall so that you could just charge in with all of your guys. You get so much value out of what you're playing that, you know, you're just going to have a large board. So you just be careful with Dragoons when it comes to things like Shantotto or any kind of mass removal because it will hurt you quite badly. And then I've gone with a single copy of Opus VI Leviathan because, having tested Opus VI Leviathan a bit, and I was really excited for it. I do like the card, I just don't think it's quite as useful as I thought it was, purely because I think that bounce-based removal is only temporary, and there are so many good forwards now with enter-play effects. You know, your Genesis, your Viking, Layla, you know, I'm using examples from this deck, but every colour, every element has something that's going to benefit from coming into play. Alcid, there's tons. So I think that bounce-based removal probably isn't quite as strong as it used to be, but I think that having a single copy in here because you have the different modes is quite handy to have. And then I've gone with 2 copies of Ramuh because it doesn't have any EX burst, but that doesn't matter because the amount of things that you can perform with this deck, where you can, you know, get something out of the way by dealing it 7,000 damage and then finishing it off by attacking with a Minwu that's casting a Cyclops, or, I mean, that could be reason enough for you to want to run Black Mage instead of Orisha. You know, you're dropping power, you're dealing some damage, but you know, there's no kind of huge removal base in here, so I think that just having some is useful, and then being able to dull anything or 4 CPLS is really useful. Being able to break monsters is useful. I just find that Ramuh fits into a lot of lightning decks, so I wanted to run it in here. And then finally Cuchulainn is in here. As much as Cuchulainn can't be cast by Garnet, she can be, or it can be cast by Minwu, and I think that because of the value you get out of it by dropping a guy's power and drawing a card, I think it kind of works very, very well in here as well. It gives you that offensive pressure that you would need to just keep barging through with your Dragoons. So the game plan for this deck is quite simple, really. Just try and whack. It's very similar to Scions, actually, which is the last deck that I covered, in that you just want as many of them down as you can possibly get. So if you can get your Kain down quickly, and then Rosa ideally as well, then you've got a decent body to base your entire board around. Then if you can get the Dragoons out quickly through searching for them through either Bran or King of Artemisium, then great, because you can always pull them back with Gladiator. I then think that that being able to grab Estinien at any given time through King Artemisium is really handy, purely because I think that, you know, having an endgame play at, you know, the snap of your fingers is really useful. And then the rest of it is just large bodies. Zemus obviously will pull things out of the break zone as and when you need them, so try and keep him alive if you do get him, but he's not mandatory, which is why there's only one copy of him. And then the draw engine is all there for you by having things like Layla and Viking, you know, Cuchulainn helps you draw cards, King of Artemisium and Brana Searchers. There's plenty of ways for you to keep your hand up, and that's something that I really wanted to make a point of doing with this deck. And Rosa will help you do that as well if you're getting pummeled, or your hand is getting pummeled, then, you know, you're able to kind of keep back up with the card like that. And then so your end game, you have two options. You can either use Estinien to finish the game, or Freya to do it, or you could just use the raw power of your Dragoons. You know, there are multiple ways that you can go about it. I do think that you might suffer against like large base removal, because I don't think there's an awful lot of ways to recover from it in this deck. So I'm not saying that this deck is going to win tournaments, and I'm pre-warning you of that now. But I think that it's a really fun deck, and I think it's really great for any kind of fans of Dragoons or fans of the Final Fantasy franchise that kind of want a way into the game, and I think it's really cool. So, I mean, this deck could be competitive for all I know. You know, this is just me, I'm showing you guys different ideas, and I really want to just inspire new players to do various different things that maybe they didn't think of previously. If you want some other ideas, then I did have a video very recently about 10 different deck ideas to come from Opus 6, so if you want to check that out, this is actually one of them. So I'm kind of going through them and, you know, elaborating on some as and when I go. If there are any other deck ideas that you like, then sound off in the comments below and let me know what you guys think. And if you guys want to play Dragoons, or you have a different idea for them, then let me know that too. I'm always happy to kind of listen to other people's feedback and kind of see where people are going with it. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you wanted to support the channel further, then I'll leave a link in the description box to my Patreon page, and I'm very thankful to everybody that supported me on there so far. But for today, that's going to be it. So thanks again very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye now.